Hello students, in today's class you are going to study about the different types of service which is offered in food and beverage service establishments. In food service operations, production as well as service of food assumes great importance. Food is produced in the commercial kitchen and served in the restaurant. The restaurant may operate independently or it may be a licensed component of a hotel. Food may be pre-plated and served to guests at the table. Food may be served by the waiter on the guest's plate. Food may be served by the guests themselves from the dish on the table, or food may be served from gueridon trolley which will be located beside the guest table in the restaurant. The layout, menu, inventory, price of food and interior decor of the restaurant will be determined by the type of service to be offered. You have to study about three major types of food and beverage service which are commonly followed. One is the waiter service, the second one is assisted service, and the third one is the self-service. Now the objectives of studying about the types of service will be, at the end of the session you will be able to understand the major types of food and beverage service, the features of each type of service, and the advantages and disadvantages of each types of service. The food and beverage service industry includes restaurants, hotels, industrial and hospital canteens, and food service in railways and airways. The basic function of this industry is to satisfy the various needs of customers by serving food and drink. Achieving customer satisfaction is the main aim of the food and beverage service industry. The customer needs that have to be satisfied are physiological needs, which includes the need for unique food items; economic needs, which includes the need for worth of the price of the meal; social needs, which includes the need for social ambience; psychological needs, which includes the need for augmentation of self-esteem; convenience needs, which includes the wish for someone else to do the work. These various needs play a significant role in deciding the different types of service done in the food and beverage service industry. Now, there are certain factors listed below which we will discuss one by one. The method of service of food to guest varies based on certain factors. Now let us see these factors one by one. The first factor which influences the type of food served is the type of food service establishment. The type of service in a luxury restaurant which offers expensive dishes to business class customers will be different from the type of service offered to customers in a fast food restaurant. The next factor is the location of the establishment. If the restaurant is located in a busy area where the rate of customer flow is very high and quick service is required, plated service, cafeteria service or buffet service will be ideal. In such situations, silver service or gueridon service will not be possible. Another factor is the type of customer. Factors such as age, income level, status and occupation of the customers influence the type of service. For example, a restaurant which is frequented by customers from middle income group cannot afford to provide full silver service which costs more. The next factor is the time available for meal. If the time available for meal is restricted, for example 1 hour, as in industrial canteens, buffet service will be ideal to serve a large number of workers at the same time. Next is the turnover of customers expected. A high turnover will be possible when the service is quick. But this depends on the pricing policy of the establishment. When the price is higher, the standard of service will be better and the seat turnover will be slower. Next is the type of menu offered. The items offered in the menu should be considered in deciding whether the service is going to be pre-plated or full silver service and so on. The next factor is the service skills available. The type of service offered will also depend on the level of service skills of the staff. For example, if Giridon service or Kaveri service is to be offered, the service staff should be highly skilled. The next influencing factor is the service area and equipment available. The type of service is also determined by the food service area and equipment available. For example, Giridon service can be done only if Giridon trolley is available and the service area is more compared to other forms of table service. Now let us see the major types of service. The first one is waiter service. Under waiter service, there are different styles of service followed. So let us see what are the styles which come under waiter service. The first one is the English service, second one is French service, next is American service, Russian service, Giridon service and tray service. Now the next major type of service is self-service. Under this there are three types. One is counter service, one is cafeteria service and the last one is vending. The third major type of service is assisted service and under this we have buffet service and carvery type of service. Now first let us discuss about the waiter service. In this type of service, the guest enters the restaurant and is seated. The menu card is presented to the guest for order. The order of the guest is taken by the waiter and the service is done by him on the guest table where the cover is already laid out. The styles of service that come under this category are, as we have already seen, English service, French service, American service, Russian service, Giridon service and tray service. Each style of service has its own advantages and disadvantages which will be discussed in detail in the subsequent chapter. Now, as the standard of service of the waiter assumes great importance in this type of service, we shall see what are the essential attributes that have to be possessed by a waiter. Now, two kinds of attributes are very essential for a waiter. One is personal attributes and the other one is professional attributes. Both the attributes are equally important as they directly influence the work of a waiter. Now let us see what are the professional attributes which are very essential for a waiter. The first one is good conduct. All the waiters should be well mannered towards senior staff as well as the guests. They should exhibit utmost professional behavior at all times. Even at stressful situations, they should be calm and pleasant. They should be tactful and honest at all times. The second most important attribute is salesmanship. Waiting staff should know all the technicalities of the job as they are considered to be technical sales persons. They should know the method of preparation of the food. They should know the presentation of food with appropriate accompaniments and the correct method of service. The next attribute will be good memory. A waiter can draw the attention of the guests and the senior staff if he has a good memory power. If the waiter has a good memory, he will be able to remember the favorite dishes or drinks of a particular guest, which will definitely be an added advantage to him. The ability to remember names and faces will distinguish the highly skilled waiter from the others. Next is job skill. This is an important skill to be possessed by a waiter. A waiter who is highly skilled will definitely attract the attention of the guests around. The next attribute is concentration. A waiter will be able to perform his job better if he has good concentration power. Guests will be dissatisfied if a waiter forgets the order or time of pickup of dishes due to lack of concentration. This may lead to loss of repeat or regular customers. The last important attribute is responsibility. This is a very important attribute as the waiter has to deal with alcoholic beverages and also with lot of money. If the waiter is not responsible, it may lead to pilferage and theft. Now let us see what are the basic principles that have to be followed by a waiter. Similar to the attributes to be possessed by waiters, there are some basic principles in food and beverage service that a waiter should know. Let us see the principles one by one. The first one is service should be done by the waiter from the left-hand side of the guest when food is served by him at the table from a platter onto the guest plate. The second principle to be followed is service should be done by the waiter from the right-hand side of the guest when food is pre-plated, though in modern styles he can serve from the left also. Service of all the beverages should be done by the waiter from the right-hand side of the guest. Service of soup should be done by the waiter from the right-hand side of the guest. In case the soup is poured from a large tureen into a soup cup by the waiter, then the service should be done from the left of the guest. Service should be done to ladies first and then to the other guests in clockwise order. Clearance of soiled plates should be done from the right-hand side of the guest. Service of empty crockery and fresh cutlery should always be done from the right-hand side of the guest. A waiter should never reach across a customer. Now, the quality of food service establishments depends on the quality of their service staff. The role of service staff in making a guest's meal experience is really very important. Interior decoration, posh ambience will have no impact on the guest if the performance of service staff is poor. Hence, the skills possessed by service staff are very important for the success of the food service establishment. Now, let us see the second type of food service, that is the self-service. In this type of service, the guest enters the dining area, selects food from the counter and carries food by himself to his seating place. This is the simplest form of service methods. There are different types which come under self-service method. The first one is counter service. This type of service is seen commonly in institutions, industrial canteens, hospitals and hotel cafeterias. The menu is fixed and displayed on large boards in order to facilitate quick service. The customer is required to buy coupons in advance and present them to the waiter behind the counter in order to receive the desired item. Food may be displayed behind the counter and the guests may indicate their choice to the counter attendant. The food is served pre-plated and the cutlery is handed directly to the guest. Guests may then sit at tables and chairs provided by the establishment. Sometimes high tables are provided where guests can stand and eat. In some types of counter service, tall stools are placed along the counter so that guests may eat the food at the counter itself. Food is either displayed behind the counter for the guests to choose from, or it is listed on a menu card or common blackboard. The guest may also get the food packed as takeaway. This type of service, followed in cafeterias, canteens, food courts, fast food outlets and kiosks, have the following advantages. The service is quick. Service skill is not required. The service staff required is less, and because of that the labor cost is low and the seat turnover is high. The disadvantages of counter service are: there is no personalized service and waiters do not have scope to exhibit their service skills. The next type is cafeteria service. This type of service is seen mostly in institutional and industrial catering establishments. This consists of a straight line of counters containing a variety of hot and cold dishes displayed in order. The customer starts from one end of the line, picks up a tray and moves along the length of the counter, selecting the dishes of his choice as he is passing along the line. The cashier, who is seated at the end of the counter, makes the bill and collects payment. If the meals are prepaid, there will not be a cashier at the end of the counter. The service counter will generally be separated from the dining area. The customers may then sit at the chairs and tables provided by the establishment. In some establishments, high tables will be provided so that customers can stand and eat. The advantages of this type of cafeteria service is: the visual appeal is good, the service skill required is less, the service staff required is less, and hence low labor cost, and more number of people can be served. However, the disadvantages of this type of service is: food may become cold as guests wait in a long queue, and the dishes should be quickly replenished. The cashier should be very efficient also. Now, the third type of service is vending. In this style of service, guests get the dishes from machines. They buy tokens or coins and insert them into the vending machine and get the dish of their choice by selecting appropriate option. Vending machines are installed at busy areas such as airports, railway stations, bus stands, schools and hospitals. Examples of products dispensed in vending machine are soups, confectionaries, hot and cold meals, hot and cold beverages, sandwiches, biscuits, cookies and snacks. The advantages of vending machine are: labor is reduced, portion control is effective, food cost control is effective, there is no wastage of food, the cost of operation is low, food served is hygienic, and service of food is available throughout the day. However, there are certain disadvantages too. To name a few, there is no interaction with the guest. Again, there is limited selection of dishes, and vending machines are dependent on past supply. This will not be suitable for large scale operations, and regular servicing of the vending machine is required, and during such servicing periods, service of food is not available. Next, we shall see the third type of service, which is called assisted service. This type of service is a combination of waiter and self-service. In this type of service, the guest enters the dining area and helps himself to the food from a buffet counter. Alternatively, the guest may be served partly at the table by the waiter, and he may collect any extras from the counter. The guest may eat seated at the table or standing in the banquet hall. This type of service is used extensively in hotels and restaurants. There are different types which come under assisted service. The first one is buffet service. This is also known as self-service. In this type of service, food is arranged on a long table in an attractive manner with garnishes according to proper sequence from appetizers to desserts. Soup tureens are used to keep soup hot and chefing dishes are used to keep hot entrees warm. Cold dishes are placed in glass, metal or wood containers. Dinner plates, saucers, crockery and cutlery required are placed on the buffet table. If disposable napkins are used, they are placed between plates. The guests go to the buffet table, pick up plates, cutlery and napkin and all other items and serve themselves the dishes of their choice, or they may request the waiter behind the buffet counter to serve them. Dishes at the buffet are kept ready for service at a set time and are available at a set price. Now there are three types of buffet which we will see one by one. The first type of buffet we are going to see is called a sit-down buffet. In a sit-down buffet service, the guest will pick up the food from the buffet table and then return to eat at the table, which is laid out with cutlery and crockery similar to a restaurant. The waiter helps the guest in the service of water, soup, sweet and coffee and also clears the table. Another type of buffet is called fork buffet. In a fork buffet, guests usually stand and eat the food with only a fork. The food served should be of bite size and should be easily manageable with a fork. The third type of buffet is called a finger buffet. In a finger buffet, guests collect the food from the buffet counter and eat with their fingers. In this type of buffet, washing facility with hand dryer and napkin dispenser is essential. Examples of dishes that are served in a finger buffet will be sandwiches, burgers, etc. Now let us see the advantages of buffet type of service. In this type, more number of guests can be served within a short period of time. The staff required for service is less and the service skill required for staff is also less. Because of this, the labor cost is less. There are certain disadvantages of buffet service. To name a few, there is no personalized service and the dishes may lose eye appeal after repeated servings. And there may be congestion at the buffet counter. There may be shortage of food if early guests serve themselves more. The service staff have no scope to demonstrate their service skills. Now the next style of service which comes under assisted service is called carvery. In this style of service, the roast joint is carved by the trunkier or the carver at the carvery counter and the guests help themselves. Carvery will generally be open for lunch and dinner. The menu in carvery will be table d'hôte with 3 courses including a selection of starters, 3 or 4 roast meats and a selection of sweets. The first and third course will be served by the waiter at the table and the guests will help themselves for roasts, which is the second course at the carvery counter. The accompanying sauces and vegetables may be served by the waiter at the table or collected by the guest from the carvery. Bread and butter will also be placed at the table. Now coming to the advantages of carvery style of service. Carvery style of service will serve as an effective marketing tool. There is less wastage as guest takes what he wants. The guests choose portion size, so they get more value for money. Staff required for service is less. The kitchen staff required is also less as the menu is limited, so the labor cost is less. But the disadvantages of carvery style of operation is there is requirement of highly skilled carver that costs money, and there is difficulty in portion control and pricing. There will also be difficulty in retaining the appearance of cooked joints. Now we have seen three major types of service. One is waiter service, the second one is self-service, and the third one is assisted service. Now apart from these three major types of service, you should also know another type or category which is known as breakfast service. There are generally two types of breakfast service which is offered in hotels and restaurants. One is the Continental Breakfast and the other one is the English breakfast. The Continental Breakfast originated in Europe. It is a light meal as the Europeans normally have a heavy meal for lunch. But the English breakfast is heavy and it is a major meal of the day. A traditional English breakfast has 6 or 7 courses. Now let us see what is Continental breakfast comprised of. Continental breakfast consists of bread rolls or toast with jam, honey or marmalade, and it is finished off with tea or coffee. Better hotels may serve brioches and croissants. And the cover layout for a Continental breakfast consists of a side plate and a side knife, a butter dish and a butter knife on a quarter plate, a teacup and saucer with a teaspoon, a sugar pot with tongs, a bread boat or toast rack, serviette, jam, marmalade and honey pots. There are variations to the Continental breakfast. If it is indicated as cafe complete, it refers to Continental breakfast with coffee or tea, while cafe simple refers to just coffee or tea with nothing to eat. Now let us see what an English breakfast comprises of. English breakfast is more elaborate and offers a choice of juices, cereals, fish course, choice of eggs, meat course, toast with jam or marmalade or honey, and finally tea or coffee. The cover for an English breakfast consists of a side plate and a side knife, a butter dish and a butter knife on a quarter plate, a teacup and saucer with a teaspoon, a sugar pot with tongs if sugar cubes are offered, a cruet set, a fish knife and fish fork, dinner knife and fork, jam, marmalade and honey, dessert spoon and fork, and a serving. Now this is an example of a typical English breakfast menu. Chilled fruit juices. The choices can be orange juice, pineapple juice, tomato juice or grapefruit juice. Cereals. If cereals are offered, it can be porridges or cornflakes. If fish is offered in the menu, it can be grilled herring or fried sole. And eggs are served in the form of poached eggs, boiled eggs, scrambled eggs, fried eggs or omelettes. Meat is offered in the form of sausages, bacon, salami or breakfast steak. Bread in the form of toast, bread rolls, brioche, croissant or breadsticks can be offered. The preserves offered will be jam, marmalade or honey. And for the beverage, tea, coffee or hot chocolate can be offered. Now we have seen an overall view about the different types of service. The major three types of service you have seen are waiter service, assisted service and self-service. So under each of this major category, the different styles you have seen, the advantages and disadvantage of each style has also been discussed. And apart from these three major styles of service, you have also seen about the breakfast service, and now which is offered to conclude the session in restaurants. It must be noted that food and beverage service establishments cannot strictly adhere to any one type of service. Generally, there will be a combination of services offered which will depend on the type of dish served. However, the type of service to be followed should be instructed clearly to the service staff so that they know what they have to do clearly. And only then they will be able to do the service quickly and efficiently. And if this is done, then the customer goes back with satisfaction and definitely he will come back to the establishment.